This is the Page Publishing Book Club. How you doing? I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. Happy New Year, everybody! This is our first show of 2019. Can you believe it? I think this is like the 6th year for the Page Publishing Book Club. Woohoo! I hope you had a great holiday. And while we're still feeling the spirit, let's go to Spokane, Washington, where Lois Crandall makes a living on the stock market. Other than that, she's writing, mostly in her diary, but she got an idea that she finally wrote down about 20 years ago, and now she's published her first book. It's entitled Christmas Land. Lois.
Well, it came from my imagination as a little girl. I got the idea when I was sitting for a Christmas tree, and I saw these very strange reflections in a Christmas ball that I was staring at, and thinking how cool. It almost looked like another place in time, but that was when I was a very little girl. Then I was about 40 years old, and I'm working at the big box retail store, one of them here in Spokane, and Christmas is a big deal in retail. So there's a lot of excitement in the store, and the idea came to me to take that little imagination I had as a little girl and make a story out of it, that there really was another land, that existed inside the Christmas ball. It's a Christmas adventure that starts with a family, Woodinville, which could be any town like Spokane or even smaller. There's a boy and a girl in the family, and the stepfather who drinks too much, and the mother who is a kind of just trying to hold it all together. And the little boy gets thrown around by the drunk stepfather and hits his head on the fireplace mantle, and he's out. And he wakes up into this other place where there's this old woman in a snowstorm, and she's talking to animals, and they're bringing Christmas ornaments that are glowing into this old lady in this cabin. And the weather is almost viciously attacking them personally, trying to take the balls away from them. But they get one ball in out of three, and they have this huge tree inside of her cabin, and she puts it on the tree, and it's like a power conduit. The tree is filled with these round balls, and the power increases enough so that the storm goes away. And then there's this other little girl in another family in the real world, and she gets transported to Christmas Land through the ball ornament. So she winds up in Christmas Land because the old lady brought her over to help, because the storms are getting worse and Christmas Land freezes up and they have to get more power. They used to be a source of power, but now they have to get some power from the real world, from good acts, charging up the balls for good acts.
So if you do something good in the real world, it charges up the Christmas tree in the
fantasy world, yes. But it's gotten so bad, the real world hasn't been sending enough energy. So they have to kind of reverse the energy. The polarity has to be reversed. And it gets a little more complicated at that point in the storyline, but the children and the animals and the ornaments are making these trips back and forth from the real world to the fantasy world and trying to get a balance. But there's all these issues and things about Christmas that anybody would recognize, adults too.
Do people notice they're gone?
No.
Oh, okay.
They don't notice that they're gone. But it's a good read. It's got a lot. It moves really fast. It's not a big book. It's like 89 pages or something, and it reads quickly, and it's for everybody to read, not just kids.
You know what, Lois? It's feeling like a little bit of Narnia, like a Narnia kind of a book, kind of a story, and the kind of story you can enjoy any time of the year. Thank you. Beverly Farabee Haida is a historical fiction buff. She tells me she used to make up stories in her head before she started writing them down. And then she found the joy of writing about the history of her North Carolina home. Her book, The Winds of Change, is the second in a series that, again, spent about 20 years in the closet before she published them. Beverly.
I started writing the book in my mind. I said, I don't see why I can't write a book. I said, I like to write, and I don't see why I can't get a job at a newspaper. I applied at the Star News in Wilmington, and so they took me on as a human interest writer. And John Myers was the editor at the time. He said, you have talent here. you should do something with your writing. So I really think that started the ball rolling.
So you wrote a series called the Family Saga series.
The first book published with Page was Caddy McLean. The second one is The Winds of Change. The third one is Rosewood and Island Plantation.
And we're talking about the Winds of Change.
We're talking about The Winds of Change. It's a continuation of the heroine Caddy McLean's remarkable life in South Carolina and rugged backcountry amidst Indian Wars and the American Revolution in the 18th century. And Caddy McLean is the title of the first book, as I mentioned, in the Family Saga series, and this story begins in Scotland after the last Jacobite War, when the conquered Highlanders were forced to endure persecution, so they left Scotland. And Caddy McLean and her family was one of many Highlanders who left Scotland for a new life in America. Many perished at sea.
That reminds me of Outlander.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
So you said you liked Anya Seton.
Yes, Anya Seton.
Yeah, so you really you like to tie in real history into your books.
I have history in all my books.
That's awesome.
I have referenced all my books.
So she comes over from Scotland to North Carolina.
Oh, she settles in the back country of South Carolina with her family. And they are farmers. They have their farm. She was one of many women who were involved in the American Revolution. A lot of women were. She was a wife and a mother, and she found living on a wilderness farm difficult. And the dream for a son was tragically dashed when her life was threatened by childbirth. So she has a lot of imposing, heartbreaking consequences in regard to that and other things. And in the midst of own battles, there was a rivalry between France and England over possession of Indian lands, which triggers continued Indian uprisings and eventually war. The settlers in the back country were caught up in the midst of it, and in the turmoil, Indians invading their land, their homes were being destroyed, and their lives were being lost. And then you have the American Revolution coming around the corner. So she was left to take care of the farm, to take care of the children, and there were sons of hers that were in the American Revolution. I bring in George Washington, Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson, there is a situation there, whether he was born in North Carolina, whether he was born in South Carolina, because the story takes place in Waxhaw. Waxhaw, not North Carolina, Waxhaw, South Carolina, because the line redrawn between North and South Carolina. So North Carolinians say that Andrew Jackson was born in North Carolina. South Carolinians say he was born in South Carolina. So I have a lot of historical characters involved in all my books, in The Winds of Change as well.
Now, do you go out and talk about your books?
Yes, I do. I do book signings in Wilmington. I have a book signing at Onslow County Library. There's several bookstores in Wilmington that I'll be calling.
There you go, Beverly. Make those phone calls. That's what we tell people all the time. That's how you get that book sold. Thank you. Mary Impress is from Queens, right over the bridge here. She's been writing poetry and short stories for years, but didn't feel compelled to publish until she was hit by a life-changing event. The name of her book, My Name is Janie. Tell us what happened, Mary.
My mom passed away. My mom's name was Janie. And normally Janie is spelled with one N, but her name was spelled with two, so that's where that came from. And she passed away about 11 years ago. And the grief and dealing with emotions, my writing just started pouring out because that was the way I could deal with my emotions. And on my son's 16th birthday, I knew that whatever I had promised my son, I would kill myself trying to do it. So I promised him that my gift to him was I was going to write a book so that he'd be proud of me as a writer or whatever. And here's the funny part. When I wrote it, it was just, a story, and it had true pieces in there from people who were, unhappy with their lives, married people. So it did have an essence of truth, But her not being able to find her identity and just being a mom and a wife and going to therapy, all that stuff was just made up. And then as my son got older, I was searching for my identity as an individual without always catering to my son because he's grown. So my life sort of paralleled Janie's years after I wrote the book. Yes, she wanted to find her independence. She's always been someone's daughter, someone's mother, someone's wife, and no one's ever looked at her as just Janie. And she was trying to find her voice, and she wanted to start over someplace else.
So she goes to Brazil.
Yeah, Bahia, Brazil. And after she met Samuel, when they went on one of their weekend vacations in his upstate house, he made it to look like Brazil. He ordered Brazilian food, and she just left the country. Throughout the book, she had done some soul searching. She was going to leave her family. Then when she met Samuel, she was torn. So Samuel had accidentally called her by the name of his deceased wife. And that's when she decided that being in a relationship was not what she needed. She needed to just break away and go by herself. I feel he followed her to Brazil, but we don't really know that at the end. We just see a silhouette of somebody that really resembled him.
So this story goes on. You're not done yet.
I never said there was going to be a sequel, but I've been writing. So I will be setting up book signings in bookstores.
Good for you.
Thank you. I really believe in this story because women want to be treated as strong individuals. We are just tired of being the doormat of life. So I just believe in this story, and I'm happy with this character. You really root for this character to win because she's always been everything to everybody. She deserves to have something for herself.
Don't we all, Mary? Thank you so much. We have to take a quick break, but we're coming right back, so don't go anywhere. This is the Page Publishing Book Club.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books, and unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them, and they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything: copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.
We're back on the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. She liked reading, writing, not so much. Then Christine Downs got an idea. So what? She has 3 kids, including an infant. Christine got to work, and now she's a published author. The name of her book, Unseen Love. So how did all this come about?
You know, one day I just had an idea and started writing, and before I knew it, it actually turned into a little bit of a book. It is about 2 friends that meet when they're very young, and they have this incredible bond and friendship, and they go through their entire lives always having each other, and at one point in time in their lives, they develop feelings for each other, and they're both kind of scared to act on it because they don't want to risk, you know, the other person not reciprocating those feelings or them like losing their friendship all total if someone comes out and says, I have feelings for you, and the other person not feeling the same. And with this, they do open up and tell each other, and it turns into a wonderful love story that kind of goes really deep because they're not just friends, they're best friends, and, you know, they know literally everything about each other, and it helps them have a remarkable connection with each other, that no matter what happens, they're always there for each other, and they can rely on each other no matter what. I like to read, and I read romance novels, and I wanted to be able to write something where the love story doesn't necessarily have a tragic event or a tragic ending. I wanted something that maybe more people can relate to, that, you know, in life, people may develop feelings for a friend and they never open up about it. So I kind of wanted to write a little positive insight to where, not all love stories have a tragedy, and it could be amazing if you just open up and take that leap. It could be a positive insight to say, I can do this. I want to see if this friendship will go somewhere beyond just this friendship.
That's so sweet.
Thank you. My hope is that it does reach, a lot of people, and that it may and possibly can be successful. I have 3 daughters, so me writing this was a huge accomplishment, especially since when I started, my one daughter was only a couple months old, and then I shortly found out later I was pregnant with my third. So for me to be able to actually write and complete a novel with having children, one, is an inspiration to me, and I hope it could be an inspiration to other moms and women out there. But, it would be amazing to know that my book, can become successful and popular, and also to, show my daughters that anything is possible. You set your mind to something and you set a goal and you just run with it and you make it happen. And that's my big thing. I want to be a positive role model, for my girls. And like I said, to show them that anything is possible no matter what.
Are you a full-time mom?
Yes.
And you're writing.
Yeah, I have 3 beautiful daughters. I have a 12-year-old, a 3.5-year-old, and a 2.5-year-old.
Oh,
so
boy.
They're the lights of my life.
So, how are you telling people about this?
A lot of my friends and family, they read about it. And then a lot of my family has social networking and Facebooking, and they've put little blurbs out there. And this kind of helped me get it out that way. And my photographer, who I use, my family friend, she read it, and so she's been kind of putting the word out there as well for me. I know Barnes & Noble on their website has my book available, so I was going to reach out to them and see if maybe I could do like a little local book signing and kind of see how about to do that. Like I said, I never really enjoyed writing, but when it came to this and I kind of put my own thoughts and my own ideas into this, it kind of inspired me to be like, maybe I can be a good writer. Maybe I should look into a writing class to maybe improve and, just kind of help my knowledge of how to properly, word things or to express my feelings and ideas when it comes to writing.
There you go, Christine. Nice work. LaShonda Bivens works at a healthcare facility, and she started writing as a hobby years ago. But then, one day, a story hit her, one she had to share. It is entitled When You Least Expect It. LaShonda.
So it's basically a story of family and friendship and love and all those twists, turns, ups and downs, things we all kind of go through in everyday life. The main character is a female who kind of finally finds love, and so is the guy, and a little bit of everything in there, honestly. A lot of messages, a lot of positivity and hope. Finding true love, having those close circle of family and friends around, people that you can actually depend on in hard times, kind of never give up. Camille is the main female character. Darnell is the main male character. They kind of meet out of nowhere, not really expecting to meet each other. And, she's kind of skeptical at first, and they start to date and hang out. And, even though they're both kind of nervous, things just kind of flow, and they end up staying together. And it leads all the way up into literally building a family together. So, and it just kind of stops at that. So there probably will be a sequel. It kind of draws you in because you just don't know what's coming next. And I feel like a little bit of anybody can get something out of it because, like I said, there are several different messages. The main message is love and family and friendship, but, having to get over tragic things that happen to you. So they can definitely look forward to a lot of positivity, a lot of kind of things that make you want to keep going and move forward with life even after you've been through things. Her ex-boyfriend actually kind of comes after her mostly, but him as well. A couple different scenes where they had to deal with him, and he actually ended up having to take him out because he just wouldn't stop coming, and it came into a situation where he actually had to shoot him because he broke into their house. And they have some situations where his ex shows up, but she's not quite as aggressive. She kind of got over it because she didn't have a choice because she saw that he was moving on.
Are you talking about this to your friends? Are you doing book signings?
I am. Most of my friends already have it. I have done few events and book signings so far.
How are you setting them up?
Well, the first book signing, I had actually gotten a contract to be in a store in the mall, and that was the very, very first book signing that I did. And then the other events are just kind of word of mouth. Like if someone sees something, they'll send it to me, and I'll call them and get set up with that. Or I think most of the events have been something someone told me about, so that's kind of how I've been getting those. I've been kind of lucky, and I have joined a lot of groups like on social media that outline different things and events, and a lot of people are always looking for vendors, so that's how I've been getting a lot of those set up.
That's great. Good for you, because that's the hardest part for a lot of people.
Yes.
Yeah. All right,
Yeah,
are you
I've
going to
been
keep
kinda
writing?
lucky. I am. I actually already have 4 other books that I'm working on. I just finished a children's book, and I have another children's book that I'm actually finishing up, and then I have 2 adult books that they don't have anything to do with this book, but I'm working on getting those 2 finished.
Okay.
One I actually started at the same time as this one, but because I had just 2 different storylines in my head and I had to get it out.
Oh, God, I know how that feels. Well, thank you so much. Keep working. Finally, Mehdi Boneb is a man on a mission trying to find his way and help others do the same through his book entitled The Rebirth of a Soul, Life Inside from a Simple Dude. So you're a simple dude.
I'm pretty simple, I guess you could say that. Kind of my journey to self-awareness, like experiences and, things that I've used, such as like children's fables to help me look at different perspectives. I've been on a difficult journey over the last couple years. I've been addicted to several substances, and I know a lot of people struggle with substance abuse. And just wanted to share my story a little bit and show people that, like we can overcome it. It's just the process. Sobriety is not a destination, it's a journey. There's a chapter called A Life of Tales, and I use a few children's fables, Aesop's fables. So the pitcher and the crow, for example. It's a hot summer's day. A crow comes across a pitcher and he wants to drink water, but he can't get to the water because his beak is too big. So on the edge of death, he comes across this idea. So what the crow starts doing is he takes pebbles and starts dropping them in the pitcher until the water level rises, and then he can drink the water. The hidden message behind that tale is that when we come across adversity, the whole point is to not give up in the face of adversity. It's to rise up to the occasion and face the challenge head on.
Okay.
If there's a will, there's a way.
So then you illustrate that with your experience?
Yeah, with my experiences, like
Did something happen?
it was a culmination of things, like especially, I guess you could say how my childhood was, like I was abused as a child. And I realized how much I repressed it because I was dealing with depression over the last couple months. But yeah, I guess you could say that I was alone a lot. I was on my own. I wanted to experiment. I was living in LA. I was in Toronto. Like eventually I went to San Diego, and that's when like things picked up. And then I was in Vegas, and you know how Vegas is.
Oh, Vegas, forget about it. Not a great place for an addict to go.
I don't think I chose Vegas. I believe Vegas chose me because it wanted to show me how awful it was, but also it chose me to stay to test me, to see if I could be in a place where temptations run wild and not break my sobriety. And nothing could ever make me want to break it.
How did you support yourself?
So I have money, like, I have a family inheritance a little bit that comes every month to me. So there was that. And I had an investment in Toronto, which I sold. So I'm still doing good,
I mean, do you work at something?
Well, apart from the writing, not at the moment.
Are you going to keep writing? Is that what your thing is?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna keep writing. That's my thing. Like, right, I love writing, but I got a couple plans for the future as well. Basically, I'm going to work for a little bit in Canada for the next couple years, and then by the time I'm 33, 34, something like that, I'm gonna start working on opening my foundation for kids who've been abused. I want to create a safe environment, a safe haven for whether it's kids or whether it's adults who haven't come to terms with it, and just create like a safe space for people to come talk to someone, because I didn't have anyone to talk to as a child. And my child abuse stopped when I was 15, so when you don't have anyone to talk to, it's very hard, like you don't realize how much you repress it.
Right.
And the other thing I plan on doing is a healing home. A healing home, not just for drug addicts, but for everyone who wants to get away for a week and just press the reset button. The healing home is going to involve yoga, meditation, Reiki healing, stuff like that. Just create a safe haven, a safe environment, a safe space for people. And once you step into my healing home, it's a no judgment zone.
Ooh, I like that. A no judgment zone. That's what we are here at Page Publishing. No judgments. Just bring your story to us and we will talk to you and you can explain it to us. And it doesn't matter what it's about or where you've been or what you've done. It's all interesting. It's all good. So best of luck on your journey, Betty. And when you think about it, we're all on a new journey now into the new year, 2019. Anything can happen. You could even publish a book. You could even reach out to me with questions, concerns, whatever you think. Contact at pagepublishing.com. Attention Alice or Page Publishing Book Club Show. Email me, and if you got something worth sharing, I'll share it. Contact at pagepublishing.com. Attention Alice. Otherwise, if you've missed anything, you can always download a podcast of any of our shows anytime you want at 710WOR.com. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Thanks for tuning in.